Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more in the Buddha's words. Of course, meant to be Thursday's video, but I am, as usual, behind. Surprise! Not really. Anyway, we're going to finish up chapter 6, section 6. But with that said, let's hop into this. Chapter 6, Section 6, Part 4. The 7 Principles of Social Stability. Thus I heard, once the Blessed One was staying at Rajagaya on Mount Vulture Peak. Now just then King Ajatasattu Vediputa of Magadha wanted to attack the Vajjians. He said, I will strike the Vajjians who are so powerful and strong. I will cut them off and destroy them. I will bring them to ruin and destruction. And King Ajatasattu said to his chief minister, the Brahmin Masakara, Brahmin, go to the Blessed One. Worship him with your head to his feet in my name. Ask if he is free from sickness or disease, if he is living at ease, vigorously and comfortably, and then say, Lord King Ajatasattu Vedahiputa of Magadha wishes to attack the Vajjians and says, I will strike the Vajjians, bring them to ruin and destruction, and whatever the Blessed One declares to you, report that truthfully back to me, for Tathagatas never lie. Very good, sire, said Vasakara, and having had the state carriages harnessed, he mounted one of them and drove in state from Rajagaha to Vulture's Peak, riding as far as the ground would allow, then continuing on foot to where the Blessed One was. He exchanged courtesies with the Blessed One and sat down to one side and delivered the king's message. Now the Venerable Ananda was standing behind the Blessed One, fanning him. And the Blessed One said, Ananda, have you heard that the Vajjians hold regular and frequent assemblies? I have heard, venerable sir, that they do. Ananda, as long as the Vajjians hold regular and frequent assemblies, they may be expected to prosper and not decline. Have you heard that the Vajjians meet in harmony, break up in harmony, and carry on their business in harmony? I have heard, venerable sir, that they do. Ananda, as long as the Vajjians meet in harmony, break up in harmony, and carry on their business in harmony, they may be expected to prosper and not decline. Have you heard that the Vajjians do not authorize what has not been authorized already, and do not abolish what has been authorized, but proceed according to what has been authorized by their ancient tradition? I have, venerable sir. Have you heard that they honor, respect, revere, and salute the elders among them, and consider them worth listening to? That they do not forcibly abduct others' wives and daughters and compel them to live with them. That they honor, respect, revere, and salute the Vajjian shrines at home and abroad, not withdrawing the proper support made and given before. That proper provision is made for the subtlety of arahants, so that such arahants may come in future to live there, and those already there may dwell in comfort. I have, Lord. Ananda, so long as such provision is made, the Vajjians may be expected to prosper and not decline. Then the Lord said to the Brahmin Vasakara, Once, Brahman, when I was at the Sarandada shrine in Vaisali, I taught the Vajjians these 7 principles for preventing decline, and as long as they keep to these 7 principles, as long as these principles remain in force, the Vajjians may be expected to prosper and not decline. At this, Vasakara replied, Master Gautama, if the Vajjians keep to even one of these principles, they may be expected to prosper and not decline, far less all 7. Certainly the Vajjians will never be considered by King Ajatasattu by force of arms, but only by means of propaganda and setting them against one another. And now, Master Gautama, I must depart. I am busy and have much to do. Brahman, do as you think fit. Then Vasakara, rejoicing and delighted at the Blessed One's words, rose from the seat and departed. Soon after Vasakara had gone, the Blessed One said, Ananda, go to whatever monks there are living around Rajagaha and summon them to the assembly hall. Yes, venerable sir, said Ananda, and he did so. Then he came to the Blessed One, saluted him, stood to one side, and said, Venerable sir, the Sangha of monks is assembled. Now is the time for the Blessed One to do as he sees fit. Then the Blessed One rose from his seat, went to the assembly hall, sat down on the prepared seat, and said, Monks, I will teach you 7 things that are conducive to welfare. Listen, pay careful attention, and I will speak. Yes, venerable sir, said the monks, and the Blessed One said, As long as the monks hold regular and frequent assemblies, they may be expected to prosper and not decline. As long as they meet in harmony, break up in harmony, and carry on their business in harmony, they may be expected to prosper and not decline. As long as they do not authorize what has not been authorized already, and do not abolish what has been authorized, but proceed according to what has been authorized by the rules of training, as long as they honor, respect, revere, and salute the elders of the long-standing, who are long ordained fathers and leaders in the order, as long as they do not fall prey to the craving that arises to them and leads to rebirth, so long as they are devoted to forest lodgings, as long as they preserve their mindfulness regarding the body, so that in the future the good among their companions will come to them, and those who have already come will feel at ease with them. As long as the monks hold to these 7 things and are seen to do so, they may be expected to prosper and not decline. chapter 6, section 6, part 5. The Wheel-Turning Monarch. And after many hundreds and thousands of years, King Dal-Hanemi said to a certain man, "My good man, whenever you see that sacred wheel treasure has slipped from its position, report it to me." "Yes, sire," the man replied, and for many hundreds and thousands of years the man saw that the sacred wheel treasure had slipped from its position. Seeing this, he reported the fact to the king. Then King Dal-Hanemi sent for his eldest son, the crown prince, and said, "My son, the sacred wheel treasure has slipped from its position, and I have heard say that when this happens to a wheel-turning monarch, he has not much longer to live. I have had my fill of human pleasures. Now is the time to seek heavenly pleasures. You, my son, take over control of this land. I will shave off my hair and beard, put on ochre robes, and go forth from the household life into homelessness." And having installed his eldest son in due form as king, King Dal-Hanemi shaved off his hair and beard, put on ochre robes, and went forth from the household life into homelessness. And 7 days after the royal sage had gone forth, the sacred wheel treasure vanished. Then a certain man came to the consecrated Katia king and said, "Sire, you should know the sacred wheel treasure has disappeared." And this the king was grieved and felt sad. He went to the royal sage and told him the news. And the royal sage said to him, "My son, you should not grieve or feel sad at the disappearance of the wheel treasure. The wheel treasure is not an heirloom from your fathers, but then it may come about that. But now, my son, you must turn yourself into a noble wheel turner. And then it may come about that if you perform the duties of a noble wheel-turning monarch on the Upasatha day of the 15th, when you have washed your head and gone up to the veranda on top of your palace for the Upasatha day, the sacred wheel treasure will appear to you, 1,000-spoked, complete with rim, hub, and all accessories." "But what, sire, is the duty of a noble wheel-turning monarch?" "It is this, my son. Yourself, depending on the Dhamma, honoring it, revering it, cherishing it, doing homage to it and venerating it, having the Dhamma as your badge and banner, acknowledging the Dhamma as your master, you should establish righteous guard, ward, and protection for your own household, your troops, your Katyas and vassals, for Brahmins and householders, town and country folk, ascetics and Brahmins, for beasts and birds. Let no crime prevail in your kingdom, and to those who are in need give wealth. And whatever ascetics and Brahmins in your kingdom have renounced the life of sensual infatuation, and you are devoted to forbearance and gentleness, each one taming himself, each one calming himself, and each one striving for the end of craving, from time to time you should approach them and ask, what, venerable sirs, is wholesome, and what is unwholesome? What is blameworthy, and what is blameless? what is to be followed and what is not to be followed. What action will in the long run lead to harm and sorrow, and what to welfare and happiness. Having listened to them, you should avoid what is unwholesome and do what is wholesome. That, my son, is the duty of a will-turning monarch. Yes, sire, said the king, and he performed the duties of a noble will-turning monarch. And as he did so, on the Upasapa day of the 15th, when he had washed his head and gone up to the veranda on top of the palace for the Upasapa day, the sacred will treasure appeared to him, thousand spoked, complete with rim, hub, and all accessories. Then the king thought, I have heard that when a duty-anointed Katiya king sees such a will on the Upasapa day of the 15th, he will become a will-turning monarch. May I become such a monarch? Then, rising from his seat, covering one shoulder with his robe, the king took a gold vessel in his left hand, sprinkled the will with his right hand, and said, May the noble will treasure turn. May the noble will treasure conquer. The wheel turned to the east, and the king followed it with his fourfold army. And whatever country the wheel stopped, the king took up residence with his fourfold army, and those who opposed him in the eastern region came and said, Come, your majesty, welcome. We are yours, your majesty. Rule us, your majesty. And the king said, Do not take life. Do not take what is not given. Do not commit sexual misconduct. Do not tell lies. Do not drink intoxicating drinks. Enjoy your possessions as before. And those who had opposed him in the eastern region became his subjects. Then the will turned south, west, and north. Then the will treasure, having conquered the lands from sea to sea, returned to the royal capital and stopped before the king's palace as he was trying a case, as if to adorn the royal palace. Chapter 6, Part 6, Section 6, Part 6. Bringing tranquility to the land. Sitting to one side, the Brahmin Kuttadanta addressed the Blessed One. Master Gautama, I heard that you understand how to conduct successfully the triple sacrifice with its 16 requisites. Now, I do not understand all this, but I want to make a big sacrifice. It would be good if Master Gautama would explain this to me. Then listen, Brahmin. Pay proper attention and I will explain. Yes, sir, replied Kuttadanta, and the Blessed One continued. Brahmin, once upon a time there was a king called Mahavijita, who was rich, of great wealth and resources, and an abundance of gold and silver, of possessions and requisites, of money and money's worth, with a full treasury and granary. And when King Mahavijita was reflecting in private, the thought came to him, I have acquired extensive wealth in human terms. I occupy a wide extent of land which I have conquered. Let me now make a great sacrifice that would explain to my benefit and happiness for a long time. and calling his chaplain, he told him his thought. I want to make a great sacrifice. Instruct me, venerable sir, how this may be to my lasting benefit and happiness. The chaplain replied, Your Majesty's country is beset by thieves. It is ravaged. Villages and towns are being destroyed. The countryside is infested with brigands. If your Majesty were to tax this region, that would be the wrong thing to do. Suppose your Majesty were to think, I will get rid of this plague of robbers by executions and imprisonment, or by confiscation, threats, and banishment. The plague would be properly ended. Those who survived would later harm your Majesty's realm. However, with this plan, you can completely eliminate the plague. To those in the kingdom who are engaged in cultivating crops and raising cattle, let your Majesty distribute grain and fodder. To those in trade, give capital. To those in government service, assign proper living wages. Even those people, being intent on their own occupations, will not harm the kingdom. Your Majesty's revenues will be great. The land will be tranquil and not beset by thieves. And the people, with joy in their hearts, playing with their children, will dwell in open houses. And saying, So be it, the king accepted the chaplain's advice. He gave grain and fodder to those engaged in cultivating crops and raising cattle, capital to those in trade, proper living wages to those in government service. Then those people, being intent on their own occupations, did not harm the kingdom. The king's revenues became great. The land was tranquil and not beset by thieves. And the people, with joy in their hearts, playing with their children, dwelled in open houses. But yeah, that ends that particular chapter. With that, let's go back to the introduction so we can read on the last parts here. Okay. Chapter 6, Section 6, Part 4 gives us a glimpse into the tumultuous phase of Indian history when Magadha, the rising star among the northern monarchies, was expanding influence and absorbing his neighboring tribe republics. In the passage reproduced here, we see King Ajatasattu, the ruler of Magadha, setting his sights on the Vajian Confederacy, the largest and best organized of the tribal republics. When the Sutta opens, he sends his chief minister to inquire from the Buddha whether he has any chance of success in waging war against the Vajians. The Buddha questions Ananda about the 7 conditions of social stability he had earlier taught the Vajians, concluding that as long as they keep to these 7 principles, as long as the principles remain in force, the Vajians may be expected to prosper and not decline. He then convenes the meeting of monks and teaches them 7 analogous principles of stability applicable to the monastic order. Chapter 6, Section 6, Part 5 is one in which the Dhamma is symbolized by the sacred will treasure and enables the king to subdue without force all the nations of the world and establish universal reign and peace and virtue upon the observance of the 5 precepts. The will-turning monarch rules with welfare and happiness of his subjects and extends protection to all within his realm, even to the birds and beasts. Among his duties is to prevent crime from erupting in his kingdom and keep the kingdom safe from crime, as he must give wealth to those in need. For in their view, the Nikaya's poverty is the breeding ground of criminality. Which, honestly, is something you could even argue today. Poverty causes much of criminality. People steal because they are in need. People kill because they are in need. People commit crimes because they are in need. If all your needs are met, there is far less chance of crime. Finally, in the last part, they elaborate on the duties of a will-turning monarch. Here, a wise chaplain advises the king that the correct way to end the plague of theft and brigandage in his realm is not by imposing harsher punishments and stricter law enforcement, but by giving the citizens the means to earn their living. Once the people enjoy the satisfactory standard of living, they will all lose all interest in harming others, and the country will enjoy peace and tranquility. Fairly reasonable thought. Give people what they need, they will have literal reason to hurt another, to bring ill upon another, because their needs are met. Now, there will still be those who commit ills, but often that is in cases where things are beyond needs and requires understanding of deeper things, mental illness, etc. But in the greater realm of things, yeah, your crimes are going to be far less. You could have a much more peaceful, equal, decent society. But yeah, we'll go ahead and end this episode here. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.